Road monkey like Fritos. Road monkey like Tab and Mountain Dew. Road monkey, very simple man with big warm fuzzy secret heart. Road monkey like you. Road monkey like you.
Hey Dino Dudes, what's going on? It's me, the Meteoraptor, and I'm back with yet another movie review for you. Excuse me. Tonight, I'm taking a look at a 1982 horror anthology movie. That movie is Creepshow. Yeah, you guys, when I first bought this movie, I bought it for two reasons. One, it's written by George A. Romero and Stephen King. That alone means it's gonna be good. Most likely. Or at least so bad it's good in Stephen King's case. George A. Romero, I've seen like 2 films from him, and they were amazing. And the second thing was, it really kind of seemed like a Tales from the Crypt style movie. And I was totally right. This thing is pretty much Tales from the Crypt without the Crypt Keeper. So, let's talk about the writing, which is probably one of the movie's 2 strongest points in this whole thing. So what's the framing device? Well, it's actually pretty creative. Creepshow is, in this movie itself, is a comic book. And the comic book belongs to a little kid, and of course his dad being the whole, oh, I have to be a generic bad dad for some odd reason, doesn't want him reading horror comics. Hands up if you can relate to that. Yeah, I know you're all out there. So of course he takes it and throws it out. But in an odd twist, did they ever give it a name? I'm just gonna call him Creep. The ghoul on the cover of the comic comes to life and proceeds to sort of like fly up to the kid and start telling him the first story, sort of. Well, Creep never speaks. He sort of goes like across, and then that, and the whole scene turns like a comic book into the first story. And in between each one, it's just him flying out, laughing slightly, then turning the page of the comic and continuing on to the next story. And all this comes to the end when it turns out the kid ordered a voodoo doll out of the back of the comic. Yeah, I know you could order things out of comics, but voodoo dolls? I'm not sure that's legal. Then again, it was the 80s and no one really cared. And he proceeds to stab it and break the arms, only to find out it's having an effect on his dad, and he seems to be fully aware of this. So, I don't know how to feel about the ending, because the dad kind of deserved it, but also, dude, that's kind of harsh. Anyhow, but that's not why you're here. See, I'm just going to read you I'm just going to read you the summary of each story off the back. A murdered man emerges from his grave for Father's Day cake. A meteor's ooze makes everything grow. A professor selects his wife as a slack for a coated creature. A scheming husband plans 2 lovers up to their necks in terror. And a malevolent millionaire with an insect phobia becomes the very prey of a cockroach army. Those sound awesome. And for the most part, they all are. All 4 of them are at least strong enough to carry the movie. The only 2 which I didn't like were ironically the one about the meteor and the one about the guy who buries the couple up to their necks at the beach, and I'll explain why in a second. Let's start with the first one though, about a murdered man emerging from his grave for Father's Day cake. First off, that concept itself sounds so ridiculous that it seems like it could never work. But you know what? They make it work. It is not, I wouldn't say scary is the correct word, but it certainly does have suspense. And this movie has a very dark sense of humor, which is I kind of think how you're supposed to interpret the ending, but anyhow. It works as what it is, you know? It's just a fun little story about a murdered man wanting his Father's Day cake, which he ended up being murdered for, and then he rises from his grave to get it, one way or another. That story, it's about 10-15 minutes, it's well acted, well scripted, well performed. Well, that's what acted means, good special effects. It's a great story. It's probably my favorite out of all of them. The meteor one is by far the weakest out of all four because it kind of seems like it had a really cool idea when this meteor lands in the backyard of this brain-dead hillbilly guy, and when he touches it, it causes all plant life to grow like mad. And since he got covered in it, plants start growing on his arm. Now, to be fair, this has the best special effects in this whole movie. And, it's him trying to figure out what to do. And ultimately, the only thing he can do... Oh, spoiler alert, by the way, but this movie's from the 80s. Why do you care? He has to put a shotgun to his mouth. Excuse me. And ultimately blow his head out, only for it to turn out that the weeds, like the plant virus, has been growing down the driveway. And the last thing you hear is that rain is coming. Now, the one rule was, water makes everything go insane. Next one, it's about a malevolent millionaire... No, wait. This weird professor guy, played by, I kid you not, Leslie Nielsen, kidnaps this young couple and buries them up to their necks in front of a rising tide. Why? 'Cause he's just kind of sick. And unlike in The Strangers, they actually do give us a reason for it, and I don't want to spoil it. And I don't want to spoil the ending to this segment, because it had an amazing twist ending. It had a real classic EC horror feel of, like, revenge, comeuppance. It's got that down pat, and it was great to see. Yeah, the one about a professor who ends up, hang on. Yeah. The professor, he tries to feed his wife to this weird created creature. It's a fun short story. I believe that one was the shortest out of all of them, but it was still very enjoyable. And let's see, what else is there? Oh yes, there's the one about the cockroach army. This one was by far the scariest because cockroaches are weird. I'm just gonna say it. I don't have a phobia of them, it's just, they're weird. And having hundreds of them on screen at the same time, it's a little unnerving, especially if you don't like bugs. Granted, I'm not afraid of them or anything. I'm not gonna panic if I see one. It's more of a ew than a, oh, I'm gonna pass out. What do I do? Oh, no, okay, what do I do? Oh man, I'm gonna pass out. Okay, maybe that was a bit of an over-dramatization, but you guys know what I mean. So, the writing is great. The characters are all pretty shallow, but considering the fact that each story runs about 10 minutes at the most, 10 to 15 minutes, they do give them enough depth that either you hate them and you want to see them pay, or you feel bad for them, or you want to see them get revenge. So the writing works totally fine. The writing is pretty strong, actually. I've seen quite a few anthology horror movies which try to do this style, but fail miserably. In fact, there were some episodes of Tales from the Crypt, one of my all-time favorite TV shows, maybe my all-time favorite. That really, I was like, oh, really? That was pathetic. That was dumb. Why did they try? Like, there have been episodes, don't get me wrong, which nothing's perfect, and this movie is still far from perfect, but it's still really enjoyable just for what it is. Now, one thing that makes it amazing is all the actors. Alright? Every actor puts everything into it. No matter how bad the story, no matter how dumb the story, the actors give 110% to all of their characters, and it is amazing. Big shout out to Leslie Nielsen, of all people, for showing up in this, as he is completely insane. He is such a calm, laid-back, gentleman-like person, yet a total sick psychopath at the same time, and it's perfect. And that's pretty much all there is to say about acting. The other big thing which helps this movie are the special effects. There's very little CG. In fact, there's some stop motion, but most of it's done practically. The practical stuff looks amazing. The makeup is some of the best I've seen in a long time. It is, again, like the stuff you would see in Tales from the Crypt. I'm not sure if this is from the same people who made it a long time ago, but I doubt it, considering the fact that it says here, original screenplay was by Stephen King. So, I'll take it that they were heavily inspired by it. So, yeah. Music, it's great. It's like a creepy 80s synth music, and it works. Camera work's fine, all that stuff. Lighting is fine for an 80s movie. The picture quality's pretty good. So when it comes down to it, can I recommend Creepshow? Oh yeah. Simply put, 3 claws out of 4. Not perfect, but still a really enjoyable movie. And I do know there is a second and a third Creepshow movie. I know they're actually both on YouTube. I may actually, and I know the second one is coming out on Blu-ray. I might actually watch the second or third one for a reaction and review this month. I don't know. Comment down below, tell me what you think. If this video gets 5 likes, I'll do a Creepshow 2 reaction and review. But until next time, you guys, totally check this movie out. It certainly is good and worth your time. I got my copy for $7, so it's not that expensive. But until next time, this is the Media Raptor saying keep cool, and I will see you guys around. Later.